By the end of this lesson, we'll be able to describe the strength of a relationship between two variables. We will use our calculator to find something called the correlation coefficient. First, let's review a little bit of what we discussed today in class. We talked about the differences between correlation and causation. Although the words sound similar, they are a little bit different. Correlation means that there must be a relationship or a trend. So we talked about an example in class where there was a trend between shoe size and reading level. It appeared that the higher the shoe size, or as shoe size increases, so did the reading level. Now, just because there's a relationship or a trend between these two things does not necessarily mean there is causation. Causation is a cause and effect relationship. This previous example is not an example of causation because your increased shoe size does not cause your reading level to increase. And same going backwards. Your reading level increasing does not cause your shoe size to increase. There are other outside factors that might be causing both to happen. So now for a cause and effect example, we talked about traveling very far. The further I increase my distance, it causes my gasoline in the car to decrease. That would be a cause and effect relationship. This relationship would be a positive, whereas one increases, the other increases. And this would be a cause and effect that has a negative relationship. As one increases, the other decreases. On this screen, I'm still reviewing from today's class. So this is on the back of today's notes. This is not from tonight's homework video lesson yet. Before we get to the video lesson, I want to make sure that this stuff is nearby and clear to you. Analyzing the correlation coefficient, or the R value. We use a lowercase letter r. The correlation coefficient, as we said in class today, is a number between -1 and +1, so any decimal or fraction between -1 and +1, including 0, that's going to measure the strength and direction of a relationship. The strength is stronger if we're closer to 1 or -1. Those would be considered strong. We'll see some examples below. Now, direction is referring to whether it's a positive or a negative relationship, or a positive or negative slope. So let's take a look at some of these examples. This first example, if a line is drawn to connect through the middle of this dot plot, or scatter plot rather, it actually will pass through exactly every single point. So this would be considered a perfect, very strong relationship at +1. Now a perfect relationship that is negative would be here. This example where the straight line goes through every single plot on the scatter plot. This would be a strong negative relationship here at -1. Now, some moderate relationships would be these in between. Some may be stronger than others. The closer we are to 0, this is not far from 0, the less strong it is. So it's much, much weaker of a relationship here. I cannot see a line if I look at these points and try to guide through. I'm not even sure how I should connect the points through. I'm not sure if I should start at the top and go down, or if maybe it even goes upward. It appears that the correlation value indicates that it should begin and go down, but that's too steep to accurately portray this information. Maybe if I go like this, it's very hard to determine, meaning it's a much weaker relationship. And then here in between we have a moderately weak negative relationship, and we have a moderately strong positive relationship here. Okay. Now, to help choose how strong or weak it is, there are some guidelines set. A perfect positive relationship. You can only use the word perfect when the correlation value is 1. You can only use the word perfect if it's perfectly negative, or an R value of exactly -1, meaning every point plotted on the scatter plot will land on one single straight line or linear function. Now, some moderate positive values, moderate, meaning in the middle, would be between 0.3 and 0.7. Some stronger ones would be here, between 0.7 and +1, to be positive for each. And then the weaker values would be here. A weak value would be between 0 and 0.3. Now, it's also important to notice that if there is no relationship at all, the scatter plot appears to not form a line increasing or decreasing at all, my correlation value can be 0. Now, we can reuse these moderate, strong, and weak words to describe negative relationships with the corresponding negative value between 0 and 1. So, for example, moderate values will always be between 0.3 and 0.7, or negative 0.3 and 0.7. So you may refer back to this chart during our video lesson or anytime throughout this unit.